Welcome to today's deep dive. You really got us thinking with this one. Benjamin Franklin's 200-year trust experiment.
A fascinating blend of philanthropy and finance.
It really is.
Almost like a historical time traveler trying to influence the future from beyond the grave.
Okay, so 1790?
1790.
Ben Franklin signing his will?
Right.
Instead of just,
Divvying up the cash.
yeah, like a normal person. He's like, I've got a plan.
I'll laugh.
He set aside £1,000 each for Boston and Philadelphia.
We are not talking about spare change here.
No,
This is a significant chunk of change.
big money.
Roughly $100,000 to $124,000 in today's money.
Per city.
Per city.
Okay, so that's serious cash.
Yeah.
He's not just giving it away.
Yeah.
He's got this plan.
Is that a 200-year plan?
200-year plan.
Which is incredible.
It's wild. He wants to set up these trusts to give young tradesmen a leg up,
Yeah.
offering them loans to start their businesses.
Helping them build a future.
He called it fostering civic virtue.
Yeah. Investing in the backbone of society.
His words, the leather apron class,
The blacksmiths.
the cobblers,
The artisans.
the people who actually built things,
Exactly.
he wanted to give them a boost.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, and being Ben Franklin, he couldn't just leave it open-ended.
Oh, no.
There are rules.
Oh, there are always rules.
Some pretty specific rules about who could get a loan.
Yeah. Okay.
Tell me more.
So loans were originally intended for married men,
Married men, okay.
under 25,
Under 25.
who had completed apprenticeships.
So you had to be established.
You had to be established.
You had to have some kind of track record.
Yes. And a commitment to your craft
Why?
and to societal norms as he saw it.
Married men under 25.
I know.
That sounds so restrictive
Oh, I
now.
was going to say,
But back then, that was probably like
the ideal candidate.
responsible.
Exactly. Responsible ones.
It's just funny how times change.
It really is.
But it's a good reminder that even with the best of intentions,
Yes.
ideas about
About societal needs.
Yeah.
And who's deserving of support, they change over time.
it really does make you wonder what Ben Franklin would think about the world today.
I would love to know.
But before we get ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
let's fast forward
Let's jump ahead.
to 1990.
All right.
200 years have passed.
200 years.
Did his experiment work?
Well,
Did it work?
the short answer is sort of.
Sort of.
Sort of.
Okay.
The Boston Trust by then had grown to about $4.5 million,
Okay.
while Philadelphia's had reached around $2 million.
Okay, so not nothing.
Not nothing.
But not exactly the world-changing sum he might have envisioned.
Not quite the financial earthquake he was hoping for.
So what happened?
Well,
Where did the math go wrong?
even a mind as brilliant as Franklin's
Yeah.
couldn't foresee every bump in the road.
Over 200 years, you're bound to hit a few potholes.
Oh, absolutely.
So what happened?
Well, there was mismanagement
Wait, really?
and inefficiency.
Bureaucratic inefficiency back in the 1700s.
You would think it wouldn't exist.
I'm shocked. I can't even believe it.
Lax.
But it gets worse,
It does.
doesn't it?
It does.
There were some less than ethical dealings.
Let's just say that.
Okay, we're talking missing records,
Yes.
loan defaults,
Uh-huh.
and a little creative accounting.
Little creative accounting.
I thought 18th century finance was all,
Powdered wigs.
sipping tea politely,
Monocle.
discussing interest rates.
Apparently not.
A little more shady than we thought.
A little more shady.
You really have to wonder how much those trusts could have grown if they had,
Modern accounting practices.
yeah, and a little less of that creative accounting.
A little less creative and a little more by the books.
Right. But it wasn't just, shady dealings
No.
holding those trusts back.
It wasn't.
Remember those very strict rules
Yeah.
about who could get a loan?
Yes.
They ended up impacting the growth as well.
Of course, because society evolved, the economy changed,
Mm-hmm.
but those rules,
Those rules stayed the same.
they stayed the same, frozen in time. So by the late 19th century, those restrictions were really outdated,
Yeah.
and they really limited who could even participate.
It's like they dodged the scandal,
Right.
but those rigid rules still would
Ultimately hampered them.
hamper the growth.
Yes.
Wow.
They still achieved something pretty remarkable.
They funded things for 2 centuries.
I know, it's incredible.
So let's move beyond just the numbers for a second.
Okay.
What kind of impact did they actually have?
Right. What did Ben Franklin's time-traveling money actually do?
What did it actually accomplish?
That's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because while they didn't hit those billion-dollar marks, their impact goes way beyond just the raw numbers.
Right.
Remember those microloans to young tradesmen?
The Leather Apron Initiative?
Yes.
To support the backbone of society?
Over time, that focus took a really interesting turn.
Oh, really? How so?
The trusts ended up playing a major role in supporting education and public works,
Interesting.
particularly in Boston.
So instead of directly funding individual businesses,
Right.
it went more towards like an education-focused approach.
Yeah, more of an education-focused approach.
Interesting.
A significant portion of the Boston Trust ended up going to the Benjamin Franklin Institute of Technology.
Okay, so is that like the elite MIT offshoot?
Not quite.
Did he accidentally fund an Ivy League school?
Not an Ivy League.
Okay.
It's a 2-year technical school,
Okay.
but it's focused on providing affordable education
I see.
for low-income students.
Oh, very interesting.
Which, when you think about it,
Yeah,
aligns perfectly with his vision
totally.
of empowering people through practical skills.
So it's like the seed of that initial intention just blossomed into something
Yes,
even bigger.
absolutely. And it wasn't just Boston.
Oh, okay.
In Philadelphia, the trust funds were directed toward supporting job training programs
Interesting.
for high school graduates.
Okay.
Again, a different approach, but still very much in line with that idea of equipping people with the skills they needed
To succeed.
to succeed.
So we've got these big picture impacts on education and job training.
Right.
But what about all those individual loans that were given out over 2 centuries?
Yes.
Did those actually like make a difference?
That's the thing. It's amazing how much detail is actually available.
Wow.
Between 1962 and 1976 alone, both trusts combined gave out loans totaling $3,476,000.
Wow, that's a specific number.
It is a very specific number.
To 1,749 young people.
To 1,749 young people.
Okay, so that's not just like a handful of lucky recipients.
No, this was a lot of people.
Who were these people getting the money?
Well, a lot of them were described as living at a very bare subsistence level.
Wow, so they were really struggling.
They were really struggling to get by, and these loans, even though they might seem small by today's standards, could
Yeah.
have been life-changing.
Absolutely life-changing, for sure.
Yeah.
It's just incredible to think about the impact that must have had on individuals and families.
Yes.
Generation after generation.
That's incredible.
Talk about a lasting legacy.
It makes you think about the ripple effect of actions,
It really does.
especially when you're talking about a timescale like this.
Yeah.
One seemingly small decision, one act of generosity,
Right.
echoing through centuries.
It's like dropping a pebble in a pond and watching the ripples go
Exactly.
further than you could ever imagine.
Further than you can even see.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We talked about the good, the bad,
Yes.
the scandals, the triumphs.
Ups and downs.
What can we sitting here centuries later learn from this 200-year experiment in financial time travel?
That is the million-dollar question.
It really is.
Or should I say the multi-million-dollar question,
That's true.
given what we're dealing with here.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
What stands out to you as the biggest takeaway?
Well, there's a couple of key points that really resonate with me.
Okay.
First, Franklin's experiment really vividly illustrates the power of compound interest. Even with the mismanagement, even with all the challenges,
Mm-hmm.
those trusts still grew considerably
Right.
over 2 centuries.
Yeah.
It really underscores the impact of even small sums invested wisely and given time to grow,
It's such a good point.
which is a good reminder for us all.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have a fortune to invest,
Right.
starting early and being consistent can yield really significant results over time.
It's like that old saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago.
Exactly.
The second best time is today.
Exactly.
It's never too late to start
And never too late.
thinking about your future.
But the second takeaway,
Okay.
and perhaps the most crucial one, is the importance of adaptability.
Okay.
We've talked about how his criteria for loans eventually became outdated,
Right.
but it goes beyond that.
In what way?
Well, think about how the trust's focus shifted over time,
Yeah.
evolving from those individual loans to supporting education and job training.
Right.
That wasn't part of his initial blueprint,
No.
but it was a necessary adaptation.
To meet the changing needs
Exactly.
of society.
The world changes, needs change, and for something to be truly sustainable, it has to be able to change with them.
It's like those trusts had to learn to adapt,
Yes.
or evolve.
Or risk becoming obsolete.
Like a rotary phone in the age of the smartphone.
Exactly.
You've got to keep up.
And that adaptability is crucial
Yeah.
for any kind of long-term planning.
Whether it's personal finance,
Yes,
philanthropy, or even just your career,
absolutely.
you've got to be able to adapt and adjust
You do.
based on new information and circumstances.
Because what works today might not work tomorrow.
That's a really good point.
It's the key to success in the long run.
So Ben Franklin's 200-year experiment
Yes.
teaches us to invest wisely, be adaptable, and maybe factor in a little wiggle room for unexpected scandals along the way.
You never know.
You really don't.
You just never know.
You never know what's going to happen.
That is true.
But speaking of the unexpected, those Franklin descendants
Yes.
who tried to cash in on the family legacy.
Oh, yes, the ones who tried to cut the line.
A blatant cash grab.
It happened.
What happened to them?
Well,
Did they just slink away after their plan failed?
that's where things take an interesting turn.
Okay.
And believe it or not, it involves a connection to another historical figure we've discussed today.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, now you got to tell me.
Okay.
I need to know.
After their attempt to claim the Franklin Trust funds failed, some of those descendants ended up scattered across Europe.
Okay.
One of them, a woman named Helen DuPont,
Okay.
became a prominent figure in Paris
Intriguing.
in the early 20th century.
Okay, a socialite in Paris, but how does this tie back to anything we've been talking about?
Well, remember Julius Rosenwald,
Yeah.
the philanthropist who used his fortune to build schools for African-American children?
Of course, his story is hard to forget.
It turns out Helen DuPont was a huge admirer of his work.
Really?
She was really moved by his commitment to social justice and saw a connection to her own ancestors' vision.
Wow, even though her own family had tried to,
Let's say reinterpret that vision.
reinterpret for their own personal gain.
Exactly.
That's wild, but it's like she understood that his legacy wasn't just about the money.
Right.
It was about impact.
It was about using those resources to make a real difference.
So what did she do? Did she start her own foundation, try to outdo Ben Franklin with like a 300-year plan?
She took a different but equally impactful path.
Okay, tell me more.
DuPont was an art collector
Yeah.
with a really remarkable eye for talent.
Okay.
In the 1920s, she encountered the work of this young African-American artist.
Let me guess.
Go for it.
Paris, 1920s, Augusta Savage.
You got it.
Wow.
DuPont recognized Savage's incredible talent right away.
Yeah.
But she also understood the unique hurdles that Savage faced as a Black woman,
Of course.
trying to thrive in a world that wasn't always welcoming or supportive.
Absolutely. Being a woman in the arts back then was challenging enough.
Yes.
But the barriers were even higher for women of color.
Absolutely. And DuPont, perhaps inspired by Rosenwald's example,
Okay.
decided to use her position to champion Savage's career.
Wow, what a great story.
She became her patron, her advocate,
Wow.
helped her secure exhibitions, studio space,
Wow.
even funded a trip to Europe for her to study.
That's incredible.
It's really amazing how this whole story comes full circle.
It really is.
It's like DuPont picked up the torch of Franklin's legacy, but instead of loans for tradesmen, it was about supporting a groundbreaking artist.
It's like those ripples just keep going,
They do.
and her support had an incredible ripple effect, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Augusta Savage became a major force in the Harlem Renaissance,
She did.
mentored countless young artists, and left just an unforgettable mark on American art.
It really shows how interconnected it all is.
It does. It makes you think about our own actions.
Yes.
What will people say about us 200 years from now?
That's the question, isn't it?
Will they see our foresight,
Our generosity.
our attempts to leave the world a better place?
Or will they just be scratching their heads wondering what we were thinking?
It really makes you think.
It does.
But I think the most important lesson from all of this
Yes.
is that our actions have consequences that extend far beyond just what we can see.
Absolutely. We're part of something much bigger than ourselves.
We really are.
A continuum stretching from the past into the unknown future, and the choices that we make today
Yeah.
will echo through generations.
And that is a powerful thought to end on.
It is a powerful thought.
We hope you enjoyed this deep dive as much as we did.
And until next time, keep those curious minds buzzing.